Welcome to Spotlight TV. I'm your host, Emily Zubi. And today we have a woman who's all about art and beauty. It's Ada Da Silva. She is a artist and sculptor and has quite a story for us. You're going to hear all about her. Welcome to Spotlight TV.
Thank you,
Love
Emily.
love having you on. And we've met a couple times, but I've never heard your story. So I'm excited to hear all about it because I've seen your work and it's incredible. And you are so involved in the community and giving back and sit on all these boards. So, today is all about you being in the spotlight. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Let's start with your background as an artist and how your inspiration, the moment you knew that this is what you wanted to do.
Funny, I've always wanted to be creative. I've always wanted to be in that space, but I would never was really given the opportunity to. Right. As an immigrant, I came in and I needed to do, real work, as our parents like to say. So I went into finance. It's not until about 10 years ago that I really started my career in art. And it was always because I had that drive, that inspiration. I always wanted to be an artist as a little girl. It was kind of a dream. And now being here, realizing that dream is really special.
And as a medium, did you always know that it was sculpting? I mean, you and I talked about this because I love to sculpt and did a year at when I finished college. I had credits I had to take, and and the medium I started to work with, and I loved sculpting because I got lost in it.
Yeah.
And it was just so tactile. So, at what point did you decide that it was sculpting?
Well, I had tried different types of mediums when I was studying my fine arts. And it's when I started sculpture that I was so immersed in it and I completely fell in love with it. And when I got into that headspace and started creating, it just beautiful things emerged and it felt so good and so right. And I knew exactly at that moment that I wanted to do this professionally.
Tell us about your first piece that you ever created.
It was really just for me. I started creating art just for myself. I put together a few different emotional things that I wanted to kind of create and put on a wall, something that was aesthetically pleasing to myself, right? Because I'm very classic and I'm very elegant in the way that I like to style my home. So I started creating that art just for myself. Um, so the very first few pieces I created out of clay, and they were painted clay. I put them on the wall, and everybody was like, "Wow, we really like this." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, but it's just me playing around with stuff." And like that, I started creating more and more things, and then eventually, I set myself out the goal to create a real series for commercial installations, and that's when that was my first kind of experience as a serious artist.
Tell us about that first series.
It was a series I created based on different emotions, based on the feminine body. So I started creating a Cuban woman and a woman expressing her innermost thoughts. So I called it Exhale. It's one of the most signature pieces that I did. Have a tabletop versions, and I even created them on monumental levels for boutique hotels. It's a beautiful piece. It's literally it's a woman, a Cuban woman with this Cuban silhouette, right? La guitarra, how we say.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I started creating her thoughts, and they would flow, and she was basically immersed and entangled in her thoughts. That
And
was a really fun piece to create.
it's beautiful. I was taking a look, and we're so so excited to have you on. So I was trying to read as much as possible and see as many photos as I can see, and and you have an amazing PR
Mhm.
agency, a woman we love who actually we honored
Yes,
at
Liza
50
Santana's
Shades of Pink, our
amazing.
Liza Santana, Creativas. So, shout out to them.
Yes, thank you. They're
So
amazing.
tell me about, like, okay, in the whole journey of this, when you come out with a piece like that, and then you say to yourself, like, okay, what's next? How do you wait for that inspiration? Or did you say, well, I'm going to kind of stay in that realm of honoring women, or,
So I try and work on two different series or collections, right? One that's feminine. So I try to create one very special, unique piece every single year that really expresses women and our emotions. very feminine in style. Very different from my like emotions collections, which are more the elongated, very more aesthetic pieces. The collection for the feminism would be much more emotional, much more well thought up, and usually a lot more deeper thinking, right? So it's women expressing their strength, their vulnerabilities, and so forth. So those always, like every single one of my pieces, comes directly from my heart. When you're seeing my art, you're actually seeing all of my emotions.
Ah,
It's
I
me
love that.
expressing, it's literally me expressing who I am as a person and putting it into this timeless, classic, long lasting bronze form.
And what's the process with bronze? I mean, how just from start to finish, what would you say, is a time frame? Does it vary? I mean, I've seen some of your pieces, they're large.
Yeah.
So I imagine, I have no idea how long that would take.
Typically about 9 months will take for one piece to be created. But I work on a series, like I work on different journals. So I will always be creating new pieces on paper. And I'm always working, molding different pieces at home as well and in my studio. But not every single one gets created. So the process, when I actually decide, okay, this is the emotion that I'm going to create, and this is exactly the style that I've already sketched it out, I've already had my base created, all of that, that will take me about 9 months, just because the molding process is an emotional one, right? So you're every day you're in there, and you're creating, and then you're moving the clay, but each, that very slight little movement, that twist, that turn, that hand gesture, all of that needs to make sure that when it's completed, you actually have that emotion. When somebody else comes into the room, sees it, and they're like, okay, I understand, and they can connect with the art. So the process starts with journaling, sketching, creating. Then I create a structure based on that, depending on the size of the piece that I'm going to create. I can either be applying just the straight clay, or fiberglass or foam, just to create the volume, depending on is what I'm doing. And then based on after that, then I start molding, doing the clay. Once that's done and the actual artwork is completed in clay, then you chop it into different pieces. Yeah, that's where the saying comes from, se rompió el molde.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's from making sculpture. So because
I
we
didn't
actually
know
have
that.
to break it so that we can then create the silicone mold and then the fiberglass mold or the sandblast mold. Once those molds are created, there's like 5 different pieces of your one piece of art. So for example, those big monumental pieces, I probably had to cut them up into 6 different pieces.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could tell I only dealt with the
It's
the
fun.
small little pieces, and
I'll be.
I'll never forget my first piece. I was studying at the museum. We were
Mm-hmm.
talking about this Rodin
Mm-hmm.
in Philadelphia. I finished my last year at college, and it's like, oh, okay, to study with, and they had live models and everything. I'll never forget. I treasured this little piece that everywhere I moved, but a couple times, my husband said, what exactly is this? I go, that's when I knew I didn't have much talent, but art is in the, eyes of the beholder. But I never knew that those large pieces that, I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it is an intense labor process. Just cutting it up, it has to be very precise, right? So you cut it and then you put the silicone mold, you let that dry for a few days, you apply it twice usually, because I like to be very precise with my work. And then we create the sandblast molds. After that, we pour in the clay. The lost wax method is the one we're still using, that old style
Hmm.
and that classic way of creating bronze. So then the clay goes in, I'm sorry, the wax goes in. And then from there, we fire up the kiln at 2000 degrees. And then once that's fired up, all of that wax actually gets lost. That's where you call the lost wax method. All that melts away, and then you pour in the molten bronze. Once that's done, you let that dry for about 10 days. Then you break the mold. You have this piece of now bronze that looks like a metal piece of mashed steel is what it looks like, really. And then from then you're gonna solder it together, all of it. And then little by little we start polishing and creating all of this patinas, and it that labor long process will take sometimes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months. right?
Incredible.
Um, Depending on how much labor it is. So those monumentals probably took me about a month of labor, just soldering and making all of those precise movements, and the sandblasting, and then just polishing, and even the patina, like the right color, right? The way I finish a piece has to be precise. So I use these antique colors that don't even get made anymore. So I have to like order them special from Europe and have to come in. So all those little fine details
Uh-huh.
you only see if you see me working behind the scenes in the foundry.
Is there something you do to mark your art signature to you? Because some artists have some very, like, I don't know, secretive ways of marking their art, or, or some just constantly, it's a stamp, an initial. Like, what's your signature?
Um, my fingertips. When I'm creating my art, my fingers are actually is what's creating the texture.
Wow.
So when you're in there, you actually see like my pieces of my nails creating the little scratches, or
Uh-huh.
my toe. It's like it's me. It's
Your
me.
hands are
My
your
hands are
tools,
really
not the sculpture tools.
not right. I use less and less sculpture tools unless I absolutely have to. But typically, it's my fingernails and my hands actually making all of those the texture that you see.
I love that. Where can we see some of your, like, where are some of the hot spots in Miami, hotels, or, the places that, you know
Yeah, so right now I have a permanent exhibition at the Cuban Diaspora Museum. So I'm the first female sculptor to exhibit
it's
there.
amazing.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. So I have three pieces on display there at this really fabulous new restaurant. I worked with the commercial design team there at Claudie and Brickle. So that's a brilliant space. So you're outside in this magical terrace in this sort of French Riviera style restaurant, and you're immersed in my sculptures. So that's really special. And I'm also doing some luxury collaborations now with hotels, where some of the monumental pieces will be there as well. They were exhibited there during Art Basel.
That's incredible. You've
Yeah,
done all this in 10 years.
yeah.
I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah, my pieces, I work a lot with interior designers, interior designers and commercial designers, and they really seek me out for certain pieces because they're so elegant and classic, and they really just will mix well in a contemporary home or in a classic home. So a lot of times I get calls from the designers, and they've already set out exactly the location, already built in the lighting, the texture that's going to be on the wall for my pieces to then be installed.
Uh-huh.
So every time that happens, it's really exciting, right? Because you have this huge, fabulous, multi-million dollar homes, these estates, and my art is what is featured in it. So,
It's absolutely beautiful.
yeah.
And I mean, I love your art. And what I love about it is that it's not necessarily modern or antique, or it's got its own style that's, like you said, classic and timeless. I mean, it could go in a modern home, it could go in, art deco. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's you've got a signature style, and it's a style all of your own, and it is sleek, it is feminine. I mean, there's a certain amount, it's sexy.
Yeah, it's me, right? It's when I say that I really put myself and my who I am in my art, I literally mean that. Every single emotion is one of the emotions I wanted to show, right? That I wanted to create something that I wanted to either get off my chest or something fun, right? Because I have pieces that are called euphoria. It's for those days that you're just having so much fun. And I have bliss, and I have lots that portray joy, right? So I even created a piece when I first moved to Miami, um, that I like to call the joyous tree. It's because I wanted to build community and I wanted to express that. It's like, how do you build community? Well, I wanted to create something that looked like a tree, because what's more establishing than a tree? What's more beautiful, permanent, right? So I created a piece of joyous figures dancing, but in a tree-like form, and that was a one of a kind. I won best in show. It was, it was really, really well received. I won best sculptor for that. So
And you mentioned community, and you do so much for the community. You sit on numerous boards and give back and do charity. Let's talk about that because that's a really big part of your brand.
right. Yeah, one of the biggest things I love to do is give back to the community. So in any which way I can do that, it's a big passion. So I do sit on a few boards. I love to be able to know what's going on behind the scenes, because behind the scenes of business transactions and in the boardroom, you see really what's needed, and then you see it. I see it as an artist, and then I see it as a philanthropist and giving back. Right. So I see these three different sides of giving back. So being on the boards is just one part in the piece of me being able to be a community ambassador almost. So I sit on the board for the New World School of Arts. I sit on the board for the Perez Art Museum, one of their committees, and for the New World Symphony. I'm sorry,
Wonderful.
for the Miami Symphony Orchestra.
As a leader, what do you think is the most important as you sit in these different boards and different personalities? Miami is as eclectic as it gets. What do you think is your leader style? Like, if you were to say to me, anyone would describe you, with three adjectives. How would they describe you?
I think I'm very easygoing. I'm a good listener, and I am very enthusiastic as well. So when I do anything, I always put my full heart into it. I always say either you're going to do it right or not at all. So when I step forward to do anything, it's with all the full intention of doing it right.
I love that. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I should have done what I wanted to do earlier in life. I mean, I'm blessed at the fact that I was able to take on this career as an artist now, but I could have done it earlier. It takes a lot of hard work, and when you do what you love, you can make it. You can really make it.
How does that influence your parenting?
Oh, my parenting. My kids think I'm a Nazi. So strict with them. It's like I am so
So you
strict.
would tell your younger self to follow your heart, but so I mean, the kids,
Well, I tell my
they come to you with all kinds of ideas of what they want to do, how they want to do it.
I actually tell them to do whatever they like and whatever makes them happy, just do it well. So, as long as you put your commitment, your time, your love, and energy into one thing, you will be successful at it. And I tell them whatever it is they want to do, I will always be there to support them. My parents have done the same thing for me. It's like they have always been right there. It's like, you're going to be an artist. They kind of looked at me like, okay, but we'll support you.
I love that.
And they've seen me grow and they're very, very happy.
Well, and I mean, you're successful. You kept at it. You're determined, and
Yeah.
you have that energy and that quintessential essence about you that I can't imagine you anything but an artist. Does that make sense? Like that sculptor. I mean, just to talk to you, to know you, is to love you, and you just have that beauty, beautiful way about you that you see the beauty in everything. I mean, we we met a couple people at a networking event, and they were also like artists and so forth, and I mean, I felt privileged to kind of be in on the conversation.
Well, art is the ultimate embellishment, right? It's like looking at a flower. It instantly makes you feel better. Same thing with art. The difference is you can actually connect to it. And when you do connect to it and you feel the emotion, it's so special. And it just beautifies everything, right? So, of course, as as one of my goals is to create a better culture and grow the arts and culture within our city in Miami, I I want to see everything beautiful, and I think art is beautiful, so it should be everywhere. And why not have my art everywhere?
So, if you were to tell me your goal 10 years from now, we're sitting here again, and you know what's happened in the in those next 10 years? Where have you grown? What have you done? What's that dream place that you want to see your art in front of?
Well, I want to see my art on a monumental scale in the largest cities around the world. That really is the goal,
Well,
right? I want it's funny, but I think it's doable. I think as long as I work really, really hard and continue in the path that I'm doing with a lot of commitment, I can make that happen. So that's my goal, and not only nationally, not only internationally, but I want to do that here not in Miami too. I want to get more of my monumentals out there and throughout the city because it's important.
and you travel a great deal.
Hmm.
So, is there any one place that you travel to that has been a big inspiration or a influence for your art?
Yes, I spent about a month last summer in Florence.
Love Florence.
Yeah, it was walking around a museum every single day. Every cobblestone gives you a different emotion. Everywhere you walk, there's art, there's culture, there's so much history. That always has a huge influence, right? So there I started sketching different ideas for a new series based on fashion. I went
Oh,
into
tell me about that. That
oh,
that sounds
yes,
exciting,
yes,
but
yes.
that sounds hard, no?
Well, it's really fun. So I came up with the idea, okay, I want to start a series about, really cool pieces, same style, the elongated pieces, but very stylish, really. So what I did, I went into class. I took some classes with the maestros of sculpture in Florence. So I would do that 3 times a week. Um, and they were just going back to teaching me like the classics. And then I started kind of immersing myself in a little bit of different mediums and different styles of art just to kind of capture a little bit more and like listen and learn from other artists. Um, so from there, what I did with the fashion theme is I went into the different museums of fashion and I would look at the books and I would look at the different illustrations. And then I would go to the museums and capture different ideas from already established artists that, if there's a piece of art with fashion on it, I would get ideas. Okay, this is that, that style that I want to kind of
Mhm.
portray. Oh, this has a really cool look. This has a cool style. All of that I put together in my notebook. And then when I come home after all of my travels, then I actually get in the studio and start creating, right? And then I start molding. Let's say from that series, I've already molded about 13 pieces, but there's only 3 that I actually want to produce.
That's I mean, it's quite a bit of editing down then.
Well, because the process of bronze is so complicated, difficult, and expensive, just because I create everything doesn't mean I'm actually going to produce it.
Okay.
So it'll
Is
stay
it
in the
something that
studio.
maybe you'll come back to, or like pretty much once you've decided, okay, these 3 out of 8 or whatever that number is, then that stays.
Yeah, I could continue it or break it down and change it at some point. And always like that, things always change. Or from that, that particular idea, I can get other ideas. Art is always, it's a flow, it's a constant flow. Everything is always changing, right? And just like even if I was painting, you never know when you're done with the paintbrush. Same thing with the molding.
Mhm.
It's like
Is there a woman that has been an inspiration as a sculptor? We're talking about, artists and, being the first woman to, first female sculptor to in this exhibit now. But is there a woman or who's been your inspiration when you think of, someone who you really look up to their work?
gosh, I have a lot. I really focus mainly on the classic artists. So, like we spoke about Rodin, like that's one of my favorites. So I tend to really study more of their work, the classics, than any of the contemporary artists today. I I have so many that I, you know, follow, right? And I see their work and I love what they do, but it's the classic arts that I tend to really focus on.
What do you do to relax, disconnect? We have our CEO circle, and one of the things that we're our topic is keeping balance this
Mhm.
month, and the topic of knowing when to quit certain things, right? So, how do you disconnect? How do you find balance? How do you keep that creative flow? Because and kind of de-stress or any of those things, like because of that artistic nature, right, keeping into that zone. So I'm just curious, how you disconnect, how you relax, how do you.
Well, aside from traveling, which I do often, I on Wednesdays I windsurf. I drop the
No,
kids off at school and I windsurf. I'm out on Biscayne Bay.
not paddles, not paddleboard.
Yeah,
Is
so
that the
the
same?
windsurf looks like a paddleboard with a big sail,
Yeah.
and I go out there for hours.
Oh my
It's a
goodness.
big part of something that I absolutely love is being on the ocean. A lot of the pieces that I create have the inspiration from sails, from sailing, from being out on the water, from being out in the ocean. For me, it's a sense of freedom. It's a sense of calming. I once again like get refreshed, right? Like I'm a new person once I'm on the water.
You're inspiring me. I
I
mean, maybe I need to get
Yeah,
out there
you
on the
can absolutely. I have the best
I'd be like
instructor.
I'd be like trying to get my balance on
Yeah,
on the board.
so I windsurf on Wednesdays, and then I
That's
pick up my kids like in my swimsuit. And they're like,
that's
"Mommy was having a terrible day today," you know?
they know when they see you that
Yeah.
that's what you do.
And then I go a lot to the Keys. I love to jet ski. I love to race. I love to go out on the boat, and
So
I
you have that real outdoorsy,
super outdoorsy.
athletic.
I love it. I'm no longer on a competitive team, but I do play on a team for tennis as well. I do a lot of exercise, so I love to keep myself super active. If I'm ever sitting down, no, I'm never sitting down doing nothing. My nothing is, okay, well, I have a little bit of free time. I'm going to go outside and garden. So I have a garden as well that I tend to in my home.
And then what kind of garden?
I grow every single crop that can possibly grow in Florida is grown in my
So
garden.
vegetables and flowers.
Yeah, from guava to avocado to lemons to squash to every herb and spice, you name it.
You love
Is
to cook?
I do love to cook. I don't have that much time to cook as often as but it's also as an art form. So I'll cook as an art form, not as an everyday thing.
I would say I would love to see that as well. Well, we have just a couple minutes left, so this is really your time. If someone wants to work with you, it's Mother's Day's around the corner. They want to get a piece of art. They want to, get something for a birthday, and they want to work with you. How do they reach you?
Well, they can reach me through Instagram, right? That's Ada_DA_Silva. So Ada Da Silva. You can also find me on my website, which is adadasilvaartdesign.com. You can reach out to my PR team, Liza Santana from Creativas PR. Many ways to reach me. I do a lot of collaborations directly with designers, anything from like creating pieces for yachts, for private homes, for commercial use spaces, installation for public works projects. I've been doing a lot of work now um, with different hotels and luxury collaborations. Those are the big things that I'm working on right now. But if you wanted anything, there's pieces available online for sale. And if you want customizations, and you just reach out to me, and I do all types of commissioned work.
That's great. You mentioned yachts. FYI, Yachts is one of our platform partners.
Okay.
And now I have to take a look when I go. We're doing
Mhm.
a photo shoot with them next week. I have to take a look and see what art they have. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so beautiful. Loved having you on. You
Thank you.
truly are just such a representation of your brand, and I can't wait to see what you do next, and get to see some of your art, and loved having you on Spotlight TV. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
And we want to thank community newspapers. Big thanks for producing our show. We've got our producer in here. Big Thanks to everyone here. We come week to week and Thursday, 10 a.m. for Spotlight TV. And you could follow us on Instagram, Miami Woman Who Rock, and take a look at our YouTube channel. Big thanks. Have a beautiful week, and we will see you next time.